Sorry, guys. Let's try this again. This is going to be a normal thing, I suppose. As I started the last video of saying, we're lucky that technology is working at all, so I'm going to try not to complain about technology. So this is part 2 of the video that I just did on my computer, and hopefully people will see me and come back in, and this will be successful on the phone that is crooked. Okay. Okay, so hello and welcome back. I'm sorry about that. That's weird. My computer has a flashing red light. That's very strange. Okay. All right. So now I'm on the phone and we may get crazy interrupters, crazy whatever, as we sometimes do. And there's nothing we can really do about that. So let us please continue with this. When your body starts to feel really super exhausted, don't think it's because of anything that's wrong with you. Now, if you're a person that has been in a bad situation or situation that makes you feel on high alert, it's very hard on your nervous system, or you feel like you're walking on eggshells, and you've been in that kind of situation, the first thing you want to do when you get out of that situation is rest, because you feel totally exhausted from being on high alert for a really long time. Many of us in our personal relationships or in external reality have been on high alert for a very long time. I just realized I didn't have my microphone in the first video, so I guess we're lucky you could even hear me. When the body leaves that high alert, you're exhausted. So don't get bent out of shape or think you're sick or think there's something really wrong if you're exhausted. And most of you, it's not going to be a personal situation that has gotten on your last nerves or has left you feeling ungrounded or whatever. When the body is on high alert for that amount of time, when you don't feel safe in your environment internally or externally for that amount of time, when that high alert, when that red alert is over, you are then exhausted. And exhausted is a good sign, because when you're exhausted, that means that your nervous system is finally relaxed and can finally chill out. Those that are jumping in now that didn't see part 1 may want to go to part 1, or you can wait till later. And I do see that there are people here, but with this O-light ring that gives me light, I can't read your comments at the same time. So relax. If you feel exhausted, it's because you're no longer on red alert. Your nervous system is finally calming down. There are a lot of things in external reality that are finally coming to light, that are finally being taken care of. So that is the reason for that. There's massive healing taking place for you personally and on a global level. And I know to many of you that what's going on in physical reality within the government or within other countries does not look like a good thing. But remember that nothing ever gets solved if you're not aware that there's a problem. So this interim is allowing everyone to see the problem and understand the problem. So we are now taking care of the problem. If you feel exhausted now, it's a good sign, not a bad one. That means personally and globally, we can relax. Things are starting to get done. Now, I'll give you an example. I've known about chemtrails for 21 years. I have researched them. I've talked to other people. I've watched videos. That was a long time ago. That was when I first had access to the internet about 21 years ago. On my lunch break, I would spend every waking moment studying things because I didn't have internet at home. I've never had a computer before, and that was very exciting. But I have been asking for 20 years. I have been asking, praying, and meditating. What can we do about the chemtrail situation? What can we do about geoengineering? Now, the people in my own family wouldn't even listen to me. They didn't believe it was real, etc. Now, what I learned when I started studying chemtrails is there were a multitude, many scientists who were traveling around after chemtrails were sprayed, and they were testing the water and they were testing the soil and all of that. And they found very alarming things. But what was more alarming than what these scientists found was the fact that these scientists ended up dead, right? So that's something I've known for the past 20 years. And I have prayed and meditated and asked so many times, what can we do about this? What can we do to stop this? And so the divine masculine of the planet really needs to step up here, step in, and really help us out and really have a plan. I don't know if you guys saw the video of the lady, I believe it was in Idaho or Utah, that had been tracking these planes that were spraying stuff and went into the business, went in and actually confronted the business about it. But the thing that I have been asking for 20 years is, how can we actually do something? How can we get something done when most of the planet doesn't even believe that they exist, and the part of the planet that does believe they exist has lost their jobs, has lost their lives, has lost a lot for what is now finally coming. And Kennedy plans on doing a lot of amazing things, but he had a list of things that he planned on doing in the next 6 months. And the first thing was removing all the additives and preservatives that are dangerous to the human body from food and food production. The second thing was, we are no longer going to have mRNA vaccines, period. The third thing was they're going to ban gypsophylate and all the other Roundup products that they were using in the food to produce the food. Then they're banning fluoride from being dumped into our water, and hopefully that means in the toothpaste as well. And but on that list, the last two things, one was make ivermectin available over the counter. The amount of people that were brainwashed by mainstream media on ivermectin was insane, talking about people taking paste for horse and everything else. But this is a medicine that was invented over 160 years ago, and it was curing river blindness in Africa. That was one of the things. But it is so effective in so many things that it won a Nobel Peace Prize for medicine. Not that many things win a Nobel Peace Prize for medicine, yet here the news was saying, oh, this is propaganda, this is for animals, you shouldn't take it, it's very dangerous. It was invented for people, not animals. But it's amazing the things people will believe due to mainstream media. Now, the last thing is, again, these are all things within 6 months from now that he has promised to do. And the last thing was ban all chemtrails. Oh my God. That you can't ban something that's a conspiracy theory, and you can't ban something that doesn't exist. So there you go. To the new people that are here who just happened upon me, I'm an intuitive, I'm a psychic, and there's a disclaimer at the front of the other video. What I'm giving you is, the majority of it is what I've psychically tapped into, what my intuition is telling me, the messages I get and the visions I get. Now, when I throw something in there like what Kennedy said he's going to ban in the next 6 months, that obviously is not coming from my intuition. Yeah, Jane, and you're the only one here that I recognize. It's very, very, very hard to see comments when I have this ring light on. So if I recognize your face icon, I recognize it. If you've never been here, I don't recognize it. So we have to really use our discernment. This is something we've been hearing for a really long time. When you're only looking at something partially, you're not getting the full story. And let me give you the perfect example how the higher version of you that knows is an all-knowing. Now, everybody has this. We don't all use it. We don't all listen to it, and we don't all trust it. But your higher version of you will always give you the details when you look at things in a very neutral way. Okay, so let me give you just a silly example. I do a lot of walking, like 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10 miles a day. And I intermittently run as fast as I can. Well, I intermittently run as fast as I can on certain streets. And then so when I got to the street and I was running, there was a speed bump about this big, so like 16, 18-inch wide speed bump in the middle of the sidewalk. And I thought, what a pain in the butt. Why is there this freaking speed bump in the middle of the sidewalk? Are they really like trying to slow walkers down? Are they really trying to slow bike riders or runners? Are they really trying to slow people down that are out exercising? It seemed like such a crazy thought to me, right? So I do different walks, but on this particular day, I decided to just, instead of taking my longer walk, I decided to do the shorter version of that and then just double it instead. I do that because like when we drive and when we walk, if we always go the same path, we get on autopilot, we don't necessarily see and hear things that we're meant to see and hear. So there's this speed bump. So the second time I'm going down that same path, I'm going across that sidewalk, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to run where the speed bump is. I'll go around the other side and skip the speed bump and run on the other side of the car. And this is why I'm saying you have to remain neutral. This actually gave me a really good laugh. So instead of running over the speed bump like I did the first time, I went around the car that belonged to the person that had the speed bump. And so the speed bump was on the left side, but because I was now on the right side of the car, I could see clearly. Like, and when we're not in neutrality and we're not looking at both sides, we're not seeing clearly. So the speed bump is on the left and it's a pain, and I don't want to slow down there, nor do I want to trip on it. So I decide to run on the right side of the car. When I got to the right side of the car, I could see that the speed bump was there for a reason. So this was an electric car, and the electric car was plugged in somewhere in the house, but then the cord was running out to the street. So while from the left side of the vehicle, it looked like what a pain in the butt, they're just trying to slow bikers down or runners down with the speed bump, it was totally ridiculous. Once I got on the right side of the car, I realized this was an electric car that was plugged in, that had a giant cord on the sidewalk, and the speed bump was there actually to cover up that cord, that big fat cord that was charging the car, so that people wouldn't trip over the cord. But you see, if we don't look at both sides and we don't understand both sides, things can seem unfair, unjust, or unreasonable. So we really have to learn how to use our discernment for that. Now, I've been saying to you for many weeks before this was even announced that we are going to get a chunk of money from the government. Okay, this is linked to NESARA or GESARA. NESARA is natural, is what is for the nation. I can talk of the United States. GESARA is is the countries outside of the United States. Now, everybody, if you're watching this in Europe or Australia, wherever you are, it's going to be something that happens for everybody on a global scale. Okay, but somebody has to start first, and that happens to be the United States. Though I think that Iraq might be doing some stuff with that now, but whatever I'm talking about here usually has zero research, or maybe someone sends me something or brings something to my attention. So the money has to start somewhere. I've been talking about this, I think, for the last 2 months. I made a video about the prosperity we're about to see. No one really even watched that video. And it's funny to me because when I make a prediction video and say, here's what I feel like is going to happen, like the shit's about to hit the fan, or you're going to get money, or, you know, whatever it is, almost nobody watches that video. But when it happens, when I make a video about that thing that happened, then there are many people that watch it. It's very interesting. It's very fascinating that I've noticed that. So there is the Doge clock in the United States. You can look at the money calculated the money that they're saving, and all of those things. And you can look at the Doge clock in real time if that's something that you want to do. It's calculating all kinds of different things, like 60 or 70 different things. Now, the Global Wealth Fund, if anyone heard that come out of the president's mouth, that is money. And I see a lot of people not understanding. I see a lot of people saying, take your $5,000 and put it where the sun doesn't shine, or take your $5,000 and pay off the global debt. But it's like you're running with the speed bump and you're not looking on the other side of the car to see why this is happening or what's going on. And I don't believe there's any waking anybody up. And my channel has never been about waking anybody up. It's about reading the energy and the people and telling you what I feel is currently happening and what is about to happen. So I'd made a video about prosperity, and what I had said was, as part of this redemption of funds, and we're going to get a check. So many thousands of people in the United States are not looking at this as a redemption of funds. Now, I don't know how having the Doge clock in real time is not helping people, if they don't know about it, if they think that is a lie. Everything is being portrayed as an exorbitant government that is in the middle of everything is being portrayed as an exorbitant government who is out of control. Okay, that's what we're seeing. Oh, hello, Jared, and welcome back. So it's not a government out of control. And I know it's shocking to so many people, it's a government that's actually telling you what's happening. Now, people are saying, well, take the money and, get rid of our debt to other countries, get rid of our debt to China. Those people are failing to see something. They are failing to view the car or the situation from both sides. And the situation is, if we have millions of dollars going to Social Security recipients that are over 100, over 120, over 150, those aren't real people. That's money being funneled through Social Security to line other people's pockets. I will like to remind you that Elon is not getting paid for this job, and Trump is not taking a salary, nor did he take a salary in his last presidency either. So if now you have access to millions of dollars, because millions of dollars were going to Social Security recipients that weren't real people, that weren't even alive, right? They were just this person, this 150-year-old person, this 120-year-old person on the books. So anybody that's saying, well, how could we get a refund? Where the money's coming from? The money's coming from the end to laundering, the end to drug trafficking, the end to child trafficking. This money is coming from 100 million different directions. Now, what they're doing on the Doge clock in real time is breaking that down into categories for you. So I've already made the video about your prosperity. I don't want to go back into that, but this is exactly what I told you was going to happen. Now, the other thing that I said to you is it will be an initial amount. Maybe it's 492,000. I believe it's going to be closer to 1 million. It could be more than that. Okay, so they're taking money, things that were a front, right? If you've got a money front and you're paying millions of dollars for Social Security for people that are already dead or never existed to begin with, now you have all these funds freed up. Okay, so this is where our money is coming from. It's coming from freeing up funds. Okay, this initial $5,000, and I told you there was going to be money many weeks ago. If you haven't watched that video, you may want to go back to that, but let's stay in the present moment. So for now, that Doge clock keeps running every second of the day. How long is it going to be running? I don't know. Even if you ask someone or you look at how long it's going to be running, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's accurate either. So the deal with the money is, what I have seen, how I've seen this happening is, your $5,000, your $10,000, whatever it's going to be, is an initial payment. So that, for one, there's two reasons for it. The biggest reason is You cannot tank the housing market, the food chain, and everything overnight. In order to drop everything, the easiest way to do this is to put a stimulus out into the public that helps the people that can no longer afford eggs or car insurance or the rent. So that's going to be a huge relief. And we're going to go back and we're going to see when that money hits that that money is going to go back to what I said in the start of the very first video. You're going to feel exhausted when you feel relief, when your nervous system can finally relax, when you can finally buy that 18 pack of eggs or pay for your rent without it being late or whatever. There are so many people in this struggling financial situation. And even on the Doge clock, it'll tell you, what people were making the average salary 18 years ago or 20 years ago. So we can see by looking at the Doge clock that the amount of money we make hasn't gone up that much, but everything that we pay for has gone up probably 200% in some instances when it comes to food and housing. So this initial 5,000, 10,000, whatever they decide it's going to be, is going to be a little bit of a gift. So one, that people can relax and take care of the things that they need to do, so they can eat, so they can pay for their house, so that they can feel safe. And the second reason is so they can know and that they can truly understand that this government is not a hostile takeover unless you're a person that's been committing crimes against humanity. The only person that is going to experience this hostile takeover is those people that have been in charge and living off, feeding off the planetary vibration and money source. This is not after you or I. It's not after politicians who are not corrupt and all those other things. So the second part of this stimulus the second reason for the stimulus is so people will understand that, yes, we really are going in, we really are going to stop paying people that didn't ever exist Social Security, or people that are passed on the other side Social Security, so that we can be more wealthy as individual citizens. And a lot of people are not going to believe it until they get that check. And the amount of people that I've seen on social media saying, why don't you just pay off our national debt, are just insane. Like, I wonder how much money they have to actually say that. And the national debt is also on the Doge clock in real time. You can look at the national debt as well. But who's to even make the judgment right now how much money you and I are going to get, or how much money of this debt to China or whatever other countries we borrowed it from? Who's to say that by the time they stop all these illegal crimes against humanity, that we wouldn't have the money to pay it all off, right? There's a very good chance that we will. And so this $5,000 or $10,000, whatever, it's going to be an initial stimulus, because if you pull up the Doge clock in real time and look at it today, and then you go and look at it 3 months from now, it could be triple that, right? So they're not going to know until they're done auditing every single department in the government and all the other departments outside of the government that are connected to the government. Until they are done auditing everything, we don't know what it's going to be, right? It could be enough for everybody to have $1 million, okay? But we do know, and I've repeatedly talked about this, that the IRS as we know it is going to be no more. I made a whole video about the symbology in the Super Bowl. Uncle Sam was saying, do you know what the game is? Yeah, we know what the game is. Pay taxes, survive, do what you're told to do. Don't think outside the box. Don't ruffle any feathers. Don't go against the system. But then at the end, they said game over, right? The game of tax is over. Go back to that video if you're interested in that. So think about for a moment how the energy is going to shift on this planet with this change. Is there going to be a big shift with $5,000? For most people, they will. For most people, that $5,000 right now is going to be a miracle. And maybe you're not one of those people. But it has been an economy that even if you make $35 an hour, barely can you just do it, which is so intensely crazy. But the biggest change is going to be that it's going to allow people to buy that 18 pack of eggs or pay for their rent or whatever you personally, you, your family, and friends have been struggling with. But it's also going to show a trust. We're doing this audit for a reason, right? And I see so many people say, well, it's just Trump stealing from other people to make himself rich. He's not taking the $450,000 a year that a president gets. He's not doing this for the money. He's never been doing this for the money. Elon is not doing it for the money. Now, does that mean they live the perfect life? Does that mean that they're perfect? Does that mean that they don't have 13,000 kids? No, it doesn't. We're all humans. And I don't care how many kids you have. I care that you're stepping up, especially the masculine energy, and making a fucking difference right now. It's really, really important. And I don't know what else you can do or what else you can say when you've got people working for free at the highest level jobs on the planet. If that doesn't tell you something, then it's too late and there's nothing that's going to wake you up. The major change that's going to happen is, like I said, this initial 5,000, 10,000, whatever it ends up being, there's going to be a lot more where that came from. So what does that mean? That means that somebody who wants to be in holistic medicine is no longer going to force themselves to go to work as an accountant or a bank teller or whatever. Now, we're not just looking at this from a freedom standpoint of view for the individual and say, wow, you individually have your freedom. You can go re-educate yourself. Maybe you want to, study music. Maybe you want to take dance class every day. Maybe you want to learn how to play the guitar and piano and start writing music instead of being an engineer. Okay. Whatever it is that you're doing that you want to switch to be doing, when this money calculating and auditing is over, you're going to get a piece of money that's going to allow you to say, I don't have to do this anymore. Now, there are a lot of us that have dropped out of that already before, but there are many people that have been afraid to drop out of that reality, that indoctrinated reality of the financial system. And that's just how it goes. We do things, we learn things, we experience things in different frequency waves. What I want you to understand, though, is the biggest jump in frequency this planet has ever seen, even if it's $500,000 or $1 million. Now, there are people that can't live on that, right? And, I don't know what to say to you. I don't feel sorry for you if you can't. But for the majority of us, the money that's going to come back, I see before the end of the year, is going to allow and invite to people to do their passion. So the whole world and the workforce. Well, no, it's not true. If you're not driven by passion, you can still be driven by money. But this energy on a large scale is going to mean that people are working and people are following their passion and their calling and not just their paycheck. Now, when 10 people do this, that makes a very powerful energy for the rest of the planet. When 100 people do it, it triples that energy, okay? So now think about, in the United States, thousands of people that had said, I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to study this. I've always wanted to stop being an accountant or an engineer or teacher or whatever it is and delve into music or whatever it is. So what's going to happen to the frequency of this planet? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the world's people will be driven by passion and calling instead of fear, lack, and responsibility. Now, let's say right now you get $1 million. Tell yourself right now, oh, I just got a check. I just got a direct deposit for $1 million. You're going to relax and you're going to say, I no longer have to do anything I don't want to do. Now, if you're a person who's used to living on $20,000 or $30,000, think about the time in the interim that you can pay for the things you need while you're starting this new passion project or this new endeavor. How much money would it take? I ask you to ask yourself this. How much money would it take for you to say, okay, now I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do instead of this thing that I did out of fear, out of lack, out of responsibility, whatever that is, right? How long have I been on here? I don't know if I want to continue or if I should make this another video. It's very, very, very exciting. And I will tell you, it has been very frustrating. And I won't say that I'm not male bashing or man bashing, but the amount of women putting themselves out there for the last 30 years, and I know there are men who do it too, but it's overwhelmingly way more women than men. Why was a woman going in and confronting this pilot, this man pilot, about spraying chemtrails and how wrong it was to poison everybody? Can we get men on board? Can we get men to stand up for the women they love? Can we get men to stand up for their family? Can we get men to stand up against the establishment? And again, I know that there are men doing this, but it's time to heal this. It's time to balance this out. It's time for all of us to get on our rightful path of what we came here to do, what's joyous, what makes the time go by where you completely lose track of time. That's what you're supposed to be doing with yourself. That's your calling. That's your passion. And I'm really just wanting to urge the masculine that has been a little bit behind in this, if we could please stand up and protect the people that you love, protect the things that you love, protect the earth that we love, right? So divine masculine, I urge you to step into that power, step into that greatness, realize how powerful you are and how many women have been out there literally doing this alone. And again, not male bashing or anything else. I'm not saying that there are not men involved in this project in all aspects, but the amount of women outweighs the amount of men doing this. So let's see if we can change that. Let's see if we can start standing up for ourselves, for this planet, and for the people we love, right? That's so important for us to be able to do that. All right. No one's been commenting for the past almost half hour, so hopefully everything was working okay with this video. We are having crazy tech problems. As I mentioned in the prior video, there's a whole lot going on, right? And even for not even just the planes that are crashing or having aeronautical issues, there's a lot of landing in highways and mall parking lots and schools and everything else. The electromagnetic system, the electromagnetic energy around this planet and in the core of Earth is stirring up tectonic plate movement. It's stirring up volcanic activity. We are very, very lucky, I'll say it again, that I can even get on here and speak to you, or that we can call each other on the phone with how amped up the electromagnetic field is. Now, what I have seen for the past 10 years is that Earth and the planets run very differently than the way we're taught, and we do change and move to different spaces within the universe, within the galaxy, however you'd like to look at that. Other things move towards us, but we also move as well. So within that band of movement, the easiest way I can explain this is that there is a photonic belt. And when you have photons, that means more lights, more particles, more packets of information, okay? Which, if you think about information and computer and technology, sometimes it can overload the circuit. Sometimes that can overload our circuit, the circuitry, the electromagnetic energy within the plates, within the core of Earth. All of this is happening. It's causing major tech problems, right? And these planes landing in school parking lots are not because there's plane problems or because because we have a pilot that doesn't know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, but the instruments are not calculating things correctly, which is why we're seeing people land. Hello, Carly. Nice to see you. That's why we're seeing planes land in weird places that are not on runways. It's why we are seeing volcanic eruptions and everything. And a very big part of this is there is a photon band. And I want to say that it changes us at a cellular level, within our DNA structure. It moves and shakes everything internal in our internal universe and also in our external universe or external global reality. So I don't look at Schumann charts. I don't look at solar flares. I don't look at it, any of it anymore, because I don't need the external validation. What I do know is there is an incredibly charged photonic field that has merged with our geographical location as a planet, and it has inundated our whole planet with an energy that moves and shakes and changes DNA, also moves and shakes the core. And all of these disruptive things within the plates, within the volcanoes, are coming because we are in a spot where we have physically met a photonic energy that is changing the electromagnetic fields in ways we have never seen before. Now, our ancestors have seen this, and I'm sure it's probably written about in antiquity and major ancient texts and everything else, but we are in physical contact with a photonic belt that has completely inundated this planet. Whether they're reporting the truth about the Schumann resonance or anything else right now, I don't know, because I'm not looking at it. What I do know is it's changing us internally at a cellular level, and it's also rocking the core of the planet, which is why we have fish coming up from the deep sea, that most of which we don't see on a regular basis. We may even see things coming from the water that we've never seen before, because I think only 5% of the planet's oceans have ever been traversed. Okay, so a lot going on, and I've seen these things since I was a teenager. And the one thing that I'm really super shocked about is in the middle of this happening, this shake, rattle, and roll, both in the core of planet, both in the cellular DNA structure of the human, and in our government, and everything that's physical. It's happening in everything that's physical. It's happening everything that's energetic. It's happening in everything that's spiritual. It's happening every way and every level, because we are a walking, talking battery that runs on our positive, negative charge. We are energetic beings, as we know, and we interact with everything. And just because our planet is now totally immersed in this photonic belt, I've been seeing this photonic belt, I think, since 2011 or 12. And so we have been getting closer and closer to this photonic belt for many years, and it has caused many changes in us and sentient life in the core of the planet, in the volcanoes, and everything, right? And I don't know if I saw it, 10 years ago, because it came into view, right? That now was a part and parcel of what's going on in physical reality, right? So think about it like this. If you walk up and give someone a kiss, right? What happens? That love energy that you felt, and then you did the action of having that kiss, right? So that energy of love that surrounds that is now completely surrounding two bodies. So this energetic field, this photonic field, looks no different. We were getting closer and closer to it, or it was getting closer to us, maybe more accurate. And finally, we have kissed. We finally merged with it. So now this energy is completely inundated around the planet. And I'm sure if we went back to ancient texts, we could see that there would be information. I feel like this probably happens every 26,000 years. It may happen twice. It may happen every 12. It looks more like it's happening like every 12,000 years. Okay. It brings great catalytic change, both internally and externally. That's another thing that you are feeling as well. I don't know that they're correctly reporting on anything, whether that be the Schumann resonance, whether that be the global earthquake information. I'm really not sure in it, and I'm not looking at it. And I am actually subscribed. If you are interested in geophysics, if you are interested in space weather with someone who talks about ascension and everything else, Stephen Burns has an amazing channel on YouTube. I've been subscribed to him for the last year. I never watch his videos, but Dutchanese is another one that does earthquake information, tidal wave information. But I'm subscribed to Dutchanese and Stefan Burns because all I need to do is just read the title. That tells me all I need to know. But these people are doing amazing, amazing work. If you want a heads up, like on the space weather and geophysical kind of stuff, Stephen Burns, Stephen Burns, has a very cool channel. I wanted to let you know that because I'm not sure on the majority of levels, as far as scientists or quantum physicists or geophysicists or anybody else actually has the knowledge that we are inundated by a photon belt. Maybe they do have the knowledge and they're not sharing it. Maybe they're sharing it, but they're being dishonest about it. I don't exactly know. And it doesn't matter to me. So the planet is completely saturated, inundated, surrounded with this photonic belt, which is changing us both internally and externally. And I don't know if science or quantum physics or anybody would ever tell us what's really going on. But I can see what is going on. And the Van Allen belts, the radiation belts of the planet, look like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, right? The photonic belts are lit up like a Christmas tree right now. And that is what is causing all of these shakeups. It also means it's a very incredible time for you to do things and make monumental changes. And they can really happen fast, and they can happen in a very less dramatic way than maybe you're expecting. We can look at the government, what's happening with the government for an example on that. Of all the visions and of all the messages and all the stuff I've been, surrounded by and inundated with my whole life, I never ever thought that when this started happening, it was going to happen this fast. It's so exciting, you can almost not keep up with it. So the core of the planet is also recycling energy. So not only is the core of the planet reacting, and I've told you guys this many times, but when the sun fires off, it goes straight to the core of Earth. It doesn't trickle down and then come back out. It goes straight from the sun to the core of the Earth. So that's a lot of amplification, right? And again, we go sun to the core of Earth. And then on top of that, we have this photon belt that we only see like every 12,000 years that is surrounded and inundating the planet, which is also then changing the core as well. However, and most importantly, one of the biggest effects on the planetary core, the solar flares, the photonic belt that we're now in, all of it is how you react. What I clearly saw today, that the core was also processing our emotional state. So we go back 12,000 years to these multitude of cataclysms, and you can look at the Bible and ancient texts and see there's, 348,000 or so flood stories, right? So we know for sure this happened, right? It's a cataclysm that sticks in the cellular memory, and we had to physically heal ourselves. And the planet, we had to physically get over that. But what I saw today was the core is processing the photon belt. It's processing the solar energy. It's processing what's coming through with our being in alignment with the galactic center. And then on top of everything else, it's also processing our emotional state. So the last 12,000 years ago, catalytic catastrophe of Atlantis, or whenever that was a physical thing. But now it's not physical, it's emotional, which I find very interesting because Tina, not an astrologist, Hammond, also knows that there are the sun and 4 or 5 other planets are also in Pisces. Well, what is Pisces? Pisces is the depth of the ocean. Pisces, so that would be close to the core. That would everything being very watery, very emotional. So more than anything, our effect on the core of the planet and what goes on with volcanoes and earthquakes and floods and all of this partially is reacting to this particular 12,000 year cycle, our emotional state. So the catastrophe of Atlantis was a physical healing. And right now, what we're talking about is an emotional healing. And the core of the planet is processing people's emotions, and that is also affecting everything. Okay, those that are here, thank you for coming in and coming back to the news that didn't make the news. Hopefully you will go back if you're here and watch part 1. And I guess this is how we're going to do things. We're going to break this into part 1, part 2. On a last and final, very interesting note, I made a video on Facebook, and I think it was 2 years ago, but it might have been 3 years ago. I met this incredible person. I had all these incredible visions. Fast forward to 3 years later, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess none of this stuff is happening. But I watched that video just for a minute today, and made a comment that, wow, oh my God, everything I was saying 3 years ago, personally and globally, is now happening. So if you're like me and you felt that partner coming, or you felt that world change, or that shift in your calling, or whatever it is 3 years ago or 5 years ago, that's happening now. And you're about to get some money to make that thing happen, make that dream happen, whether that dream is a dozen eggs, or paying off your house, or whatever it is. It's coming now, and it's here now. And thank you so much for being here. Until next time, thank you for joining the news that didn't make the news.